This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
But we'll call us to order here. We got 307, 306. Connie's purposes. This is the Monday, July 10th meeting of the Easthampton Energy Advisory Committee. I am Jamie Paquette, the chair. Call the meeting to order. And first order of business is to review and approve the meeting minutes from June 5th.
I move we approve the June 5th minutes.
Don't you have a conflict of interest? I second it.
You second.
Thank you for having
Moved
me.
and seconded, all approved, all in favor?
Aye. If John approves, I know I'm doing wrong.
That's right. Minutes are approved. Thank you for doing the extra version with Cassie's stuff in it as well.
Yeah, I'm
Good to
sorry.
catch.
I
appreciate it.
I'm glad
I don't know what the protocol is with that because it was like sort of
I've done it
extra
before.
to the meeting.
I've done
Yeah,
it
it's
before.
fine. It's good to have it all in there. Good to be expansive. Yeah, so we once again have our three committee members joined by Bruce Foles, member of the public, interested party. You have anything you'd like to bring up for public speak today?
No, I feel like I took too much time in the first two meetings. This time I'm just, we'll see how it goes.
Okay, all good. It pointed us in some good directions. We have some good stuff happening here. And I didn't actually re-invite Stephen Linsky, who was here the last time.
I didn't either. Oh well.
Let's see.
How did it happen that he came to this last one?
The mayor, you invited him? Okay, I thought the...
I actually sent him like several emails.
Several emails, okay. And then I think the mayor also emailed him at some
I was
point.
hoping he might decide to join, but I
I'll
don't
talk
think
to
he's
him.
going to.
I'll get the
Okay.
inner scoop. I know I'm skinny. I know a bit.
Right. Cool. So yeah, so as far as like committee updates, nothing major to report. We're still as is here, but certainly there remain openings for people to join us officially, or in an unofficial capacity is fine as well.
Maybe all of the publicity we're going to get from the climate action plan will
I know, I tried to make
inspire
a
some
plug at the
people
end there
to
because I just
join.
thought of it. It's like, oh yeah, but it was. I feel like I could do better with the plug. So next time.
Yeah, I did put another Facebook post at some point about it as well, but I don't think we got too much traction. We got a little bit of interest when the planning department tagged us around the climate action plan thing, but
What is that?
we need to get more people. Well, they tagged us so that we were part of like preparing the climate action plan. So, but I think what we need to do is actually try to get more people to follow us or like our page on there because it's a small number. And that's a more concerted
I could
effort
use
to try to boost that.
a little lesson exactly how to do all that.
Okay.
I get.
Yeah, because I think you're the other person on there besides me right now. who
I mean,
boost that.
I can share, but like generating, like I tried to just on my own in our site
Mhm.
post the picture with, and I couldn't figure out how to get it. I couldn't copy what you had done and put it into ours other than to share it, which isn't quite the same because we
Right.
could pin it if it was actually generated on ours.
Right.
So I need someone to show me how to do all that.
Okay, depending on what time we finish, if you have some time, maybe we take
Okay.
a few minutes after the meeting.
That would be great.
And get
Okay.
through that
And
part.
the last thing is just about recruiting people in this survey. One of the things people do is sign up for more information
Right.
explicitly. And I emailed all those people directly before the informational meeting, but also like you can just email on if anybody wants to join the energy advisory committee. Like
Okay, I may even have you send me that list because there's
Yeah.
a couple targeted people possibly. We could talk about this actually in the June 28th event thing because there's a couple of things that I noted there.
Yeah.
Well,
People
also,
that spoke up.
we should all look at the list because we might know some of those
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
personally.
That's
So we
true.
should just see, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, we'll jump into that in just a moment. That'll flow back into this.
Yeah.
Because, the next part's really quick, which is the municipal aggregation piece, which is that it took me a minute to realize that I had it, but the mayor had signed they hammered out all the language. The mayor signed it last week. Once I realized that had happened, I sent it over to Good Energy, and they're processing it on their side. So, contract should be more or less finalized as far as that goes, so.
Wait, say that again.
So the mayor has signed it, and I sent it to Good Energy to get their signatory to sign, to countersign. I
That's fabulous.
don't
That's
have that
exciting.
back from them yet, that I've seen. I don't know if they'll send it to me or they'll send it directly to the
I
city.
have
but-
a question about that from, I guess it was the last meeting. There was some comment made about, we have a contact person on the DPU, or
I saw
someone
that.
that's like the Easthampton person, and we should make sure that that's the person who reviews the
I-
aggregation plan.
saw that
I
in your
think
notes
it's
that you-
DOER, right?
Oh, so I shouldn't have put it in the notes, because I knew I was confused.
I believe it's DOER, where we would have like a person, like they're assigned kind of by region
our
or by
region.
town or
I
So
got
something.
how
the
would that,
impression,
how
too,
would
that they're
that
talking
help
about
us with
somebody-
the aggregation?
Because we have to go to them first.
Oh, it goes to the, oh,
Yeah,
okay. I
TPU is,
thought-
TPU is the
okay.
final.
Can should I change the notes? Because I did put DPU.
Doesn't matter.
It's, yeah, if you
not-
want to make a quick adjustment to the minutes if we submit them.
Okay, no, I will. Because we
Approved.
want it to be correct, you
And
know?
the regional coordinator is Chris Mason, who used to be the sustainability person
Right,
in
in
Northampton, so
Northampton.
he's really nice.
Yeah.
He's our person on the DOER.
Regional
DOER, regional
coordinator.
coordinator.
DOER.
So once we get that, officially executed, then I think, Good Energy will reach out and maybe we'll have them either set up a separate meeting with them to start the planning execution process, or have them come to one of these meetings where we probably need some extra time to really talk through what that's all going to entail in terms of like getting that started to ramp up. So
Is it your impression that they're ready to go, or soon?
I think so. Yeah, I'll
Wait
confirm
for it,
with
yeah.
Patrick. Yeah, they've been sitting around, but they got other stuff going on too.
It's
But-
they're waiting for us.
Well, they still have a lot more work to do before they ever see dime one too, right? It's like they're not getting paid until, so their motivation is to move this
Yeah.
through so that they can start generating some revenue from it.
So I have another question.
Sure.
I looked at the part of the EDIC meeting that you guys went to. I thought
Yes.
you guys did a really nice job
Thank you.
in responding to their questions. But there was some discussion about adding that question about gas to the survey, or did you just leave it as barriers and not get specific? I'm just curious whether we changed it or...
I can't remember if that meeting happened before or after, because we had the.
It happened before our June meeting.
Right.
I just was curious.
I'm not sure.
I had some concerns about how I interpreted what their thinking is about gas, but I just was also, I think it's a very legitimate thing to have in the survey, but probably people will put that anyway
With the moratorium.
in the the moratorium,
Oh, so
and how
I-
gas hookups are a barrier to,
Yes.
especially restaurants.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know that we did.
Okay.
specifically or not. That's a
Don't
good question.
don't even look it up for me.
Okay.
I'm just as curious.
Well, let's
I'm not that
move
curious.
in. Let's move into the climate action plan portion here. Bring that up, and the survey, which is still ongoing, or
Yes.
yeah, it's
I know, I
running
was-
for how much longer?
Yeah, I was looking at the minutes from last time, that was a question. My understanding it's gonna go through the summer into the
Okay.
fall.
That's
Because
great.
that's they basically from the scope, that was what they list out as like the,
That's really
public
good.
outreach period,
Right.
and things like that, so, that's my understanding, and I don't think there's any like, huge barrier to having it open longer if we need to, or closing it early if we need to, like, it shouldn't be too hard to do.
Mhm.
So, but I figured the longer I have it open, the better. And my thoughts for kind of more outreach, because for those of you who were there, you saw that the informational meeting, they were able to say we got a little over 150 plus respondents thus far, which I thought was a really good turnout considering
Mhm.
the turnout from surveys typically. Likely have gotten more since then, hopefully. But I'd like to kind of restart those efforts again with a focus on environmental justice communities. So I kind of preliminarily talked with them about it, but I'm hoping to dive into it at the next meeting that I have with them, our little bi-weekly. So that was going to be kind of a shift in my focus, because we did pretty good with like really trying to get people. I think there's other things we could do, like trying to get River Valley Co-op to post it in their newsletter, and I was looking
Mhm.
at what y'all had talked about the last meeting, makes sense to me. But we hit a lot of the big things before. We did, we went to the Culture Chaos event, we physically went out and handed them to the businesses almost everywhere. Thank you, John, again, for running around with me. We did a press release, we put it on all over Facebook, and Jeff actually spent some of the planning budget to boost that one
Mhm.
time at least. So it got like technically like boosted, so people could see it. I know we always sent back to the school before school closed.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, so we
Did you
all the rest
hear
of these.
anything back about whether they actually managed to make their way home to people's?
I didn't say, but I delivered it myself to
Yeah.
the front office and told them this is
Yeah.
what was going with there. Like, hey, no problem. I individually like organized it into groups of 20 like they asked,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like, it
Wow.
was ready to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it didn't take as long as I thought it would, so it wasn't so crazy.
What's our
to do.
numbers up to now? Is the 150 was as of the 27th, whenever that
Yeah.
meeting, we don't.
I don't know. I haven't had a youth meeting with them since then, and I'm not really sure. Can't remember why.
I'd also
We had a very
love to
brief
know,
one.
when you meet with them, how many
Holiday.
businesses have
I know.
responded. That'd be such
Yeah, I wanted
useful
to.
information.
Yeah.
Yeah, when is the next meeting with them? Because I know last week was a weird holiday week. And
Yeah, I think that's why it's all out of whack. I have it on here. Sorry. I think that it would be in August.
For the record,
Not
I'll say that
this
them is
Thursday.
Weston and Sampson.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Weston this Thursday at 9:30. So
Thursday,
um,
9:30.
I will ask them that. Yeah.
Is there an agenda that gets put together for those sessions, or are they just?
They're very quick. They're typically very quick, and we just like check in on things and like be like, okay, here's our next actions, Cassie, what we need you to do to help us, like boom, boom, boom. So that's typically how it goes. And so what I'm expecting for this one that's coming up is, yeah, I'll get this information about the respondents so far, but then also try to like talk about how we're going to tackle environmental justice communities and reach them more directly, because a lot of the like advice and best practices for doing that is to try to find the existing leaders in those communities and like reach out to them and like go to them directly, which I think makes total sense. The trouble in Easthampton is that we have 4 environmental justice communities, but they're all income based. Those communities don't typically, it's a little bit harder to identify who the leader is income based. 'Cause
Right.
the income inequality is a little like harder to see on the surface. And I think like some people, aren't like joining groups because they have low income necessarily, you know what I mean?
Right.
So we're thinking
There's
about,
no obvious like tenants associations or things like that to like go, yeah.
exactly. So, but that doesn't mean it's impossible by any means. So it's more just focusing on.
How can you tell us how the 4 are defined, or where they're located, or?
Yeah, it's
If
really hard
there's
to
actually
like.
a geospatial
There is.
thing to it.
They're very bound, if it makes sense. Like, there's actual EJ map that the state
Right.
has created.
The state has?
Yeah,
Okay.
the state created
There's a
it.
section in that, the whole thing about the city, that there was some major report that was done. I think they're all listed in that.
Oh, that's definitely true. That's the solar thing. They just
Not the
recently.
solar
Oh.
thing, I forget the name of it, but it's like 250 pages
Yeah.
that the
that's
city
prob-
put out that talks about everything, the environmental stuff.
Oh, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Huh.
How current is that, I wonder, though?
It should be
21.
called environmental injustice.
How, is the state one, like, do they keep it
No,
current?
sometimes they still
Turn
have stuff.
things on their heads.
But it's like, it's literally just like a website for that department, and it's like, it looks like, Google Maps or whatever. It's like the whole, you can search and zoom into a place and it'll show you like, here's the blocks that are EJ. And so I know it's like along Florence Road, and it's like the New City area, and it's like,
Planes.
yeah.
And where'd you
I don't
say?
think the Plains, actually, oddly enough. I'll come back with that next time for you guys.
Okay. But then the question is, like, if we know what the areas are, should we just physically go put the survey in their doors, like
Well, we
you do for
can't- yeah.
political campaigns?
We could try to do like a targeted mailer and do it that way.
Oh, mailing it, that's so
Yeah.
expensive, though. Do
It
we have
is
the money to do
expensive.
that?
Well, so like, it's just not always super successful, unfortunately. So a good example is Jeff, when they did the open space recreation plan, which a lot of people were like, we just did this survey a year ago. I'm like, no, you didn't. You might think you did. It's kind of similar, but it's different. But he did a mailer for the entire city, all residents. And that was very expensive. And I think it was like some cuckoo number in the thousands that it went out to, and the respondent was like 300 something. Like it's very low.
That doesn't sound so bad.
I know, but
Because
it's,
if it's a subset, we have 6,000, 5,000 households,
don't quote
something
my
like that.
numbers.
Okay.
This is like just from my memory, but the takeaway that I got from Jeff
Yeah.
was this, and the consultant who worked with that one was that like it wasn't very successful, unfortunately. So, but it might make sense to do a targeted one to these EJ neighborhoods that we know where they are and it's very explicitly found.
Or, I mean, I'm just thinking about knocking on doors. There is something about knocking on someone's door and saying, this is what this is. It would really be great if you would do it.
Right, I know.
I don't know I don't know how many doors we're talking
I
about.
know. It might be a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Some of these neighborhoods are a little more dense.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. And there's safety concerns with doing something like that,
Well-
but not super concerning, but it's just something to think
I don't
about.
know. I mean-
And it takes time, but, I know, but,
Come on.
it's just something.
We're talking
to
about
mention.
Easthampton,
I know,
we're
it's
not
true,
talking about-
it's true. The last piece of it is that there's other ways too, though, that may be a little less labor intensive, which is like reaching out to churches and then
Oh.
also reaching out to the Easthampton Community Center,
Okay.
which, they have a lot of services that help people who are in certain income brackets, and it might be a good targeted way, which I spoke to them when I did my handouts. I stopped there and had a really awesome conversation with the woman who runs it, whose name is escaping me right now. But
What about the Council on Aging?
I stopped there too, but we can probably do another thing with them, maybe would make sense. So yeah, thinking about, that would be, I think might be a good focus for this next push of the survey, but certainly more people can get to take it generally, the better. It doesn't need to be EJ people only that we reach out to again, so.
So has anyone done tabling at the farmer's market?
Yes, I
Yeah.
did that
You're
one time.
doing all of
Yeah, no, it was
Yeah.
fun. It was really fun to do,
Yeah.
but I didn't hit a lot of people. I put
No.
in about 100 flyers and handed out, I think I had 60 left over at the end. So,
It's been tough weather for the farmer.
well, yeah.
Yeah, every weekend, yeah.
It's been tough weather. That day, it was a threat of rain, but so there weren't a lot of tables set up, but it ended up being wicked nice. Some people turned up, but just a lot of them weren't Easthampton residents, surprisingly. And then a lot of them were just kind of not interested, or, I don't know. It
Well, they
wasn't-
probably thought you were going to make them do something
Yeah.
they didn't want to volunteer to do.
Which is fair, So I
Fill
think
out a survey.
it definitely reached the people, but for it took it's a long time to be out there,
Yeah.
and it didn't get a lot of hits. I don't know. It didn't seem very. Maybe wouldn't do it again. I think it's worth doing more to know that though.
What about Acadia? Did we try getting in touch with them?
No.
I could do that. I've had interactions with them before with doing other,
Right.
they're very open to doing stuff around climate.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they could post stuff on the Audubon website. I don't know quite how that works. And I don't know how many people read it. I don't read it when I get it.
Or even do they have a bulletin board there at Arcadia?
Well, they do, but they also have a camp.
Right.
They have a lot, and the camp, I think it's a weekly camp, or maybe it's not more than 2 weeks. So a lot of people go in and out there. I mean, I don't know about
Yeah.
the bulletin board, because for so long you couldn't go into their building. I assume it's open now.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we could create something with a QR code where
Well,
people
the
could scan it.
poster-
Is there one that has that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is posted where at the.
I got it posted at the Council on Aging. It's posted here.
Right.
I got them posted at the community center.
Okay.
And then it was on all the flyers that I handed out. And then it's on the
Right.
city website as well.
Okay.
So it's out a lot of places, but
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Arcadia would be a good place to put it, in their
Yeah.
their central parking area there, if we
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
So.
And then I
And
wonder
then
whether we could get
even River
local
Valley.
businesses to post it.
Well,
you
yeah,
know.
River Valley could, or maybe
But just all up and down.
Mount Tom's, put it in the window.
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah,
It's
yeah. I'd be willing to go out and just run up and down and ask them if they'd put it in their windows. I could do that.
no, I basically printed out last time the flyer and it kind of highlighted the survey with the QR code, and then it highlighted that we're going to do this public meeting on the 28th. So I will make a new one that doesn't have the
Right.
advertisement
Great.
advertised for the 28th, but
Yeah.
I think it makes sense. So yeah.
Are there a lot of those left the 28th? Can we just block it out?
Yeah, we could, easy.
Yeah,
that'd be
just
easy
cut it
too.
off.
I only have 4 of them.
Oh, you do?
Nothing
Oh,
that.
okay.
It's really
But-
easy to print them out. I
okay.
just do it
Okay.
here. They're not
All
really
right.
fancy. It's just
Okay.
So is there much going on at Nashawanic Park?
Well, there is. I mean, there's a camp there that
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's
Camp Nonotuck.
certain practice. They're opening the pool this year.
They are. Maybe we can get it. Yeah.
So that would be a great
Pool
place to
there's
put
about
some,
to
at
open
least-
this week. I think I just saw.
I
the
think,
notification.
and that'd be a great place to at least get posters up. If
Yeah.
nothing
They can't
else.
find the pool anymore though.
What do you mean?
Water levels have
Oh.
risen so high they
Oh,
can't
dear
find the
God.
pool.
Everywhere is a pool at
We're
Nonotuck now.
just walking along.
Here, by the way, is
Yes, there you go.
Without roads designations,
Yes.
if you have an idea of the shape of Easthampton,
Yeah.
those are pretty big sections.
Those are pretty big sections, and it is the plains too. That is a
Oh,
big
sorry, it is the plains.
section of
You
the
were right,
plains
sorry, I
down there,
forgot.
right? I would
Yeah.
assume that all down there is
There's got to be a version of this with street names.
part of it.
Yeah.
It would be
That's
nice,
like
it'd be
part of
nice
it
to,
between
like,
Hendricks
hook it up with
and-
that, like overlay it onto
Yeah.
that. That would be very useful.
Or maybe that's between East. Oh, that might be just between East Street and.
It's like a long.
Take it back. That's like south of Clark. That's that area between East and Holyoke Street.
Yeah, I think it like, it
So
is
that's
that,
not
like,
the plains
Cherry
actually,
Street
unless there's anything
area,
further down or not.
Con Ave, things like that.
Yeah, because that's more the plains down there. I take it back.
Anyway, that's a.
So would it be
Right.
possible for someone here to do an overlay, or do they just
Very
know
easy.
where
Yes.
they put them?
Just have something ready that has that.
Addresses.
It wouldn't be
With
hard to
streets.
figure it out.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be hard. We could definitely do that.
Can you send us a link or an invite to the Thursday meeting just in
Yeah,
case anyone
yeah,
wants to
yeah.
drop in? That would be great.
I can have it set up.
And then, yeah, if we could do some additional flyers out at least.
Yeah,
in places,
I now.
high traffic areas.
I'm
or-
like back. I've had stuff I had to do, but I certainly can
Okay.
walk up and down and do that kind of stuff, and I'll get in touch with Arcadia and see what they can do for us.
Yeah, and we did that big push for the informational meeting and the cultural chaos, and now it's like, okay, what's the next big push? So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Maybe, I guess there's not a lot of harm in double hits on businesses, or triple hits we might have now, but maybe I will try to at least list the places that I spoke to over those 2 days, and just so we know. I have notes too, I mean, there's who was receptive, who was, you know, who was like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, it's probably be good, because you don't want to hit those places.
It wasn't bad really, but.
Yeah, or even just
people were friendly, but-
bulletin board
Yeah.
tax stuff
Okay,
or
that'd be
whatever,
helpful.
but like.
Oh, are you talking about that bulletin board that's on the bike path there?
Yeah, by tandem.
It was, I tried to put it up in there and it was locked, but I think if I asked
Okay.
Barbara here, the clerk, she'd tell me. I'd
Yeah.
get it in it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's just, I think it's probably must be the trail committee, Manhattan Rail Trail
Oh,
Committee.
okay.
Who like has a key to that or something.
Yeah.
So, no, I think it makes sense.
Did you say that the library has one?
Yes, yeah, yep.
I think we should.
And do they have it on their site? Their
I would.
I think they
Facetious,
posted
but
it
not
on
really.
on their social media.
We should.
That's
But it
right,
was
yeah.
that one,
We
but
should.
they don't have one that doesn't have the advertising the meeting.
Plan for the next online meeting of the school committee and buy advertising time for the cap plan during the meeting, because there's probably a good thousand residents on that meeting site.
We could you could go from you could go to public speak
Who's ever
and
ready to adjust.
mention it, right? You
Hey,
can show up for
this may be a
public
little off topic, but
I feel like the school.
what?
committee
How are we going to
person-
contact the churches?
Superintendent has to.
That's what I
support
want to
it.
figure out with in Sampson. Like, how do you do it in an equal way? We don't want to focus on one.
And in a
church together.
respectful way.
In a respectful way, in a tactful way, make it make sense. So, because that's a little out of my wheelhouse, so we need for me. So I just want to make sure we do it right. But they were like familiar with that. They were suggesting that. So, you know what to do. But we just need to figure it out with them.
So do you think it's worth doing the farmer's market again, or do you, is
I don't
this
know.
sort of
It's
not?
excellently run and it's really awesome event, but I just don't know that it makes sense. You're just there for like a wicked long time, and I didn't happen to get a lot of hits that day. So
Yeah.
if people want to, they're welcome to again, because they were like very generous in letting us come back again and take up some space. But
So did you table? Did you actually have a table?
I brought out like a easel, and I just didn't have a table, but I had like the board that I brought to Cultural Chaos, and then I brought the physical flyers to hand to people.
Okay, and did
Was
you?
this last week's?
No, it was before the 28th.
And did you have a way to stay in the shade?
Kinda, because I ended up with a good
I'm just
spot.
trying to get
Oh,
the actual reality of doing this.
I think if you're sweating, it portrays a more convincing message.
Oh yeah, I was sweating. It was hot. I rode my bike down. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to have a way to sit in the shade if I was going to do it,
We
frankly.
can have more stuff, and there's like tables that they said we could use and stuff. But I just like, well, I'll just have the easel and then just hand out the flyer, because it was like you really had to like stop people. Some people would stop themselves, but a lot of people would be like, hey, are you an Easthampton resident? And
Yeah.
if you were between a table, I don't think anyone would really come up on their own. Most people probably
No,
wouldn't.
that's
have.
understandable. Unless, but that's when we need to give away those things that Nicole said she had a whole bunch of weird little toys that we
Right,
can
the
give
Lego
away.
things or
Okay.
whatever, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
she's
what,
fine.
that would be a good
That
place
makes
to do
total
that.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might make it make
Yeah.
sense. I'll write that down.
When is Starbucks opening? I'm thinking a couple weeks
wanna,
we could
Try to pick a
hit up
date
for
to do it for a farmer's market. I mean, I'm happy to.
complimentary
stuff.
Maybe we can do it as like a
Can raffle
multiple,
off
you know, not just a
for people who
CAP
did
thing. It
surveys.
can be a, you know, a recruitment
Maybe
thing
we
for
want a
us
guilt trip.
and.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
and
That's
Well,
not
there's
a
all
bad
the
talk
idea.
about, you know,
Do it all.
aggregation and just like talk
Yeah.
about all the stuff.
That-
Yeah.
I
you guys
love
have to
that
talk about
idea.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you think if we want to get that pulled together, I'm trying to find my, maybe this week, it would be a little too soon to
Yeah.
do it. It's on Sundays now, right?
Sundays, 9 to 1, I think.
So what about,
10 to 10.
10,
Yeah.
10
But
to
they
2 or
want
10
you
to
to be
1.
there like 9:30.
Right.
right,
Maybe 2.
I feel like the 16th would, I'm not sure we could get it together.
No, I don't.
So
I don't
there's,
do it that
so
much.
then we have the 23rd, the 30th, any thoughts? The 23rd? Or do you want to go in?
23rd maybe, or even, or that first week in August maybe.
Talk about which one to go to?
Yeah, if we wanted to set up, do a table for the committee, and then, you know, we could plug the survey, but as well as just like talk about other stuff we can have, and maybe we can
About
get some
150.
toys to give out.
So the first Sunday in August is the 6th. So should we have that be when we're going to do it, the
You want to
6th?
plan for that? the
Yeah,
6th?
okay.
So was anybody there last weekend?
I was not.
There was a booth, but I think they're a business trying to get people to come in and do podcasts. They're a media.
Was it
East Ham-
East Hampton
East Ham-
Oh, yeah.
Media?
Probably. They were there when I was there too.
They were really wanting to promote local businesses and
Mhm.
local information stuff. So it sounded like they may be a possibility in terms of including this in some of the stuff they do.
Oh, yeah.
That has come up too at Cultural Chaos. I talked to the head guy there because they had a table then, and I've talked to Jeff about it. Just has to go through, the city has like a very specific like account with Easthampton Media, so it has to like go through them. But I was talking about like even just if we had like a slide that they put up in between the other public access networking that they do, that just is like commercial, that just shows like QR code. I don't know how many people are willing to scan a QR code on the TV, but like.
Well, if you included the tiny URL
Yeah.
on it as
Just
well.
written out, we could
Yeah.
definitely like rework it to be more like TV friendly.
Yeah.
I think, and like couldn't hurt. It's just something that we need to work out the details with Jeff. How-
That's a-
Because
I think that's a really
they're the
good
ones,
idea.
they post all the meetings online,
Yes,
right?
yep.
We couldn't get them to just include it at the beginning of every committee
I don't
meeting.
know. I don't know what the rules are. That'd be sweet, but yeah.
I know the woman who's, I think, one of the owners of that, so.
On the board, you
On
mean?
the board,
Yeah, because it's not a private,
It's not?
No.
Okay. But she was there manning the booth, so
Okay.
Cool.
I could talk to her.
I think that's actually a really good idea, and probably you should be interviewed as well.
I should be interviewed. I was already in the reminder, so
I don't know, I didn't know, I missed
that
that.
was a while ago. I don't know if I ever saw it either. The outcome, I just know.
So you're gonna you're gonna find out about that?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, that's great.
All right, so we can talk about August 6th then as a tabling date.
So what do we need to do to get ready for that? We need to think about that.
Right.
You know, maybe we need a committee.
I have an email
A
chain
separate
going.
committee.
We putting too much into one thing like this, unless it can be reproduced and used at other
Well, it
events.
could be.
That would
It could
help
be what we do
justify it.
at every farmer's market. We could do it it could be what we do at any event that we want to publicize ourselves at. You think it's too much work? You know?
I don't know if it's too much work. It could be a lot of work and a very limited audience who might already be the ones who were supporting this and are conscious of this stuff.
Right. I think it's just a
Maybe
good
my
chance
bias
for.
about like food market.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a good point. I agree with you. I just think it's also good for us to just sort of talk to people in our capacity as committee members, which doesn't happen that often. We don't get a chance to like interact with the public all that much.
And this could be rather than
So
just
like a recruitment effort, plus
Right.
like talk about
Actual
aggregation, talk about
Right,
school
right,
buses,
right.
talk about like,
Right, the different-
we can be ready to talk about all the different stuff.
Yeah.
We don't have to be limited to the climate action plan.
Periodically, they have people in front of the co-op
Yeah,
Mhm.
with a
that's a
booth
good
set up.
point.
You know, I
Yeah.
would think you'd get a lot more people there than
I am
you're gonna
curious.
get.
So farmers market
We
has
have a
them.
newsletter
Yeah.
too.
The co-op.
The co-op sets up different groups. You mean?
Well,
Yeah, you can-
I don't know if they pay to be there, but it seems like it's
I think
more.
they just get permission.
One day they had an EV One day I drove by there, I was too busy, but they had
Yeah,
I went in, they had an EV take a test drive.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Big E's does that too, and actually that would be, Big E's would be
Toyota, I
a
don't
good
know,
place
Yes.
to
Oh,
get
sorry, right there. I
locals.
got
That would actually be a
So
good
I
I got a
see
poster.
But I'm thinking about
right.
sitting, like, that's where everyone goes to get their
So you probably have to
signatures.
apply to-
Right, it's a
They're running for-
central
you know.
location.
That's actually probably,
That's a good cross section of the
yeah,
city
that's
too.
also
that
what I was
goes there,
thinking.
yeah.
I'd be willing to do that, to just sit there.
Why?
Table.
Big E.
No, I know. But
Yeah,
then
Big Y isn't in Easthampton.
Isn't it? It's
No.
It's
Across the border.
No, the Southampton and Northampton.
I thought there was talk of making some enterprise zone there.
I don't know, maybe. But, like, I could do that this weekend if you got me the flyers.
Yeah, you need to get permission from them
What's
too.
that date?
Yeah, but I can do that. They're very
26th.
good about letting people do that. They-
Okay, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
everybody goes there.
Yeah,
It's a
it'd be
wide
very
range
easy
of.
for me to get you the flyers. We just need a new one that doesn't have the 28th
Yeah,
meeting.
well,
after.
if you can't get by next weekend, whenever
Okay.
you can get it, I
I'll
can go
go.
sit there on a Saturday.
Okay, look, definitely, maybe not this weekend, but since we're meeting with them on Thursday,
Okay.
it doesn't take them long to make it. They're
Oh,
really
they
fun.
make it, oh, I
Yeah,
see, of course
yeah.
I know that, yeah. Okay,
No,
okay.
this is all really good. I think this is all good, and so, and if anyone wants to come, when we meet on Thursday, we'll kind of set out the set plan of like what we want to do. And then I can like share that all with you guys and be like, okay, if anyone wants to help do it on this day, we're gonna do that, whatever. But it will be picked from amongst this list of stuff, so.
And you know, I'm just thinking about if we do decide to do something like go to Big E or River Valley, the stuff that we're talking about. I mean, even if we just made a poster that said, "This is what we're doing right now,"
Yeah.
and you know, it said the aggregation plan, the
Right.
climate plan,
Yeah.
just, and we're interested in electric school buses. I mean, it could just be like a poster, you know, like,
And that's
and then
what-
we can sit there.
Right.
Because we have a poster for climate action plan, but yeah, that was gonna be my note for if you guys want to do like an EAC table. It's like, yeah, how would you want to visually represent all
Yeah.
the different things that you're doing? And we went to Paradise Copy to print out the big like information thing for the cap that we had, which is, it's wicked awesome. But I don't know if it makes sense to do that for
Also-
all the stuff that you get. But yeah, because it was like kind of expensive, so
Yeah.
you have to make a decision if it makes sense. And
Yeah.
it was wicked easy because Weston and Sampson made it, so it's very like well organized and pretty.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah, it's just very simple.
I'd be willing to go buy, like, you know, those foldy things that kids do for their science
Like
projects and just
recycling.
make some little things and stick it on, and
Yeah,
I'll do that, and then you guys can look at it and tell me
Okay.
if you think it's too pathetic.
Sounds good. We'll round this back to the June 28th event for a second, just to, obviously there were a bunch of people on there and things that came out of that. I think Weston and Sampson was collecting all that information.
yeah,
for the most part.
they saved all of that.
Right.
But we didn't really have good turnout for it, honestly.
No,
'cause it was
no.
like
I wasn't
you-
sure,
If you
yeah.
subtract all the Weston Sampson people and then
Us,
us,
yeah.
it was really only like
Another-
11 folks, unfortunately. But
Beyond
people-
us or beyond us?
Yeah, beyond us, yeah.
So I think like, which is too bad. But I think two things. One, it was just an informational meeting. I really tried to emphasize that, like, you're here to learn about it. So, you know, some people were, one person at least sent a comment near the end, was like, let us talk. And I was like, we just don't really
Yeah,
have the
yeah,
time.
that was Ann Darling, yeah, I know her.
Which made sense.
Yeah,
was
and
like,
she
what
also
about-
was unhappy that she didn't get a response about gas leaks.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I just said to her, you know, because she wrote to me about it, I just said, you know, I just don't think that's what they were focusing, that wasn't really what this meeting was about. You know, that they're a consulting group, they're, you know, that's not
Well,
what's
I don't know that they
happening.
can even
And
speak to it accurately because it's not, they don't
Yeah.
deal with Eversource or potential
Yeah.
leaks at their gas leaks. So
Right.
it's a legitimate concern. So knowing
Yes.
that that's a concern of a member of the public is what we're trying to get. But we can't really say, yes, that is a thing that's happening, or no, it's
Yeah.
not, or here's the extent of it, because we don't really know.
But I think that there was, some of the people did think it was a different sort of meeting than it was
Yeah.
from that point of view. But what are you going to do?
Which is
You
fair.
know? Yeah.
But we're going to do more stuff that is like involved later. But yeah, so there was a lot of participation, or not, people who were there were awesome, and they participated a lot, which was very helpful.
Yeah.
We didn't get a lot of people coming.
Right.
I think one of the barriers is that there was some back and forth about whether we should like have a registration option for people. So that they could register and then put it on their calendar, which is super handy. It's all like, oh, you just click a thing and
Oh,
then
yeah.
it shows up on your calendar. That's so helpful. But they did it
For
through
an
this-
event, for an
yeah,
event
for
like
an
this,
event.
yes.
But they did it through this service called Eventbrite,
Mhm.
which when you go into it, and sign up, it's showing you as if you're buying tickets.
They make you join. Like
Right.
it was kind of
It
weird.
doesn't
like
make you
everything,
join,
yeah,
but
you
it
gotta
looks like
create
it
an
makes you
account for
join.
everything, right.
It makes wants you to create an account, which sucks, and then it also shows like this dollar value, which is 0,
Yeah.
but that freaks people out. I saw it, I was like, am I going to buy that? I've done other events through that, so it's a legitimate way to do it, but I was like, this probably is not the best way, and so we had it available that people could join even if they didn't register. That's no problem. But I was like, I think the next one, registration is not an element of it. I don't know if you guys think that's crazy, but because with registration you get people's emails, you get like there's some
Well,
benefit.
maybe
but,
voluntary registration or something.
right, but I just think like people, when you scanned that QR code or went to the link, it took you to the registration link, and that was what we distributed. And I bet a lot of people got on there and they're like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean,
There's a
Well,
difference.
When you
Was
also,
it-
what are they doing with your information?
Right.
You know, that's what always makes me nervous.
feel
You
weird,
winding- Are you winding up and getting solicited for all
Right.
this other stuff?
Eventbrite stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And yeah, meanwhile, you could accomplish the same thing with a Google form that's going to give you a spreadsheet with everybody's email address in it
Yeah.
anyway, and you can contact them all.
register that one. Yeah.
And then just it's a little bit more static. And then yeah, I mean, have it respond like, okay, here's a link to add it to your calendar,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But
So just a
Um,
factor of why it didn't, I think, potentially didn't have huge turnout.
the thing I noted at the end was there was definitely at least one person, a couple people that were sort of like, what if we want to do something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That was like what I noted, like, because obviously that the people that are there are kind of motivated on some
Yeah.
level, right? And so I'm of course looking at that through the recruitment lens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, you come join us. So that was kind of where I was interested in the list of people, because I noted that person's name, but then I couldn't find them anywhere.
Yeah.
But there's probably a couple others too that I want to reach out to and say, hey, if you're interested in continuing to talk about this and hear what's going on with it, kind of behind the scenes, or, come to a meeting or come consider joining us or something like
Yeah,
that.
I think like the next information or whatever next public meeting that we do, I want to have prepared like something to say either at the beginning and the end or one or the other that's like better. Saying like join EAC, because I kind of just like did it off the cuff there and I was like, this isn't really
I thought
good.
you did a really nice
Okay,
job.
thank you.
Hosting
That
it
is so
though.
nice.
I think you really did an excellent
I'm
job.
glad.
Yeah.
But I think I could have sold EAC a little more, so, or trying to get people to join. So, I
Can
will
we
plan to
link
have that.
these meetings to the Facebook page? Can you
So
do
what
that?
I have on the city website that I posted,
Yeah.
the page for the cap, is I posted the video on there. It's like the first thing you see, you just click it and watch it, or you can download it. So there probably is a way, I can send you like the link. I don't really know.
I don't know.
On Facebook
Yeah, we
posts,
could post it, or
probably
we
is a
could
way.
share the planning department's post or whatever.
Yep. So the benefit of, and kind of like the hope, the thing that I really wanted to come away from the informational meeting, even though a lot of people didn't go, is that now we have a recording of that, and it really just lays out how it works in its entirety,
Yeah.
and it can be posted on there. So that is going to stay on there, and will be available for people. So I do think it was a success in that regard, and that it's not. I mean, it's unfortunate that we didn't have huge turnout, but the point of it was kind of to get that.
Okay, that makes
event.
sense.
For an online thing, I thought it was pretty adept technically at getting people's, those little exercises,
Yeah.
drawing
I
people's
know, I thought
input,
so too.
comments, and pulling them all together, and I don't know what it
Yeah.
did graphically with it, but
Yeah.
they just listed everyone's responses.
Yeah.
and
And
I
you
think
say
that's
that.
that's a way to keep people hanging in there a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Although not everybody wants to go to these meetings and participate in group discussions, they just want to know what's going on. So
Yep.
Well, but what was nice about it was sometimes you go to these things and you do these breakout things where you do have to do like these strangers
Yeah.
you're supposed to talk to.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Right.
I like that. It's just like you just typed in your own response.
It's regular if you got the right ones. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Who likes the tickets?
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
so
This is
meeting on Thursday,
I'll send on the link.
upcoming tabling at Big E's and elsewhere, get some more flyers.
What about
print it up and-
Nonotuck? What do we want to do about Nonotuck? We want a poster. Is there anything else? Do we want to be handing them out to camp parents?
are they all local kids?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
technically have to be an Easthampton kid to go to Camp
Oh,
Nonotuck.
that would make sense, yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know how it's the pick up and drop off there is a little chaotic. It's like not really organized all that much. I mean, you could have like a stack of them there at next to their sign-in sheet or something like that people could take.
Oh.
But like, I don't know how.
I can reach out to the parks department and see if they have thoughts.
Yeah.
If nothing else, just Is there something that we could post, like for where the swimming pool is, or something like that?
And even the booth.
Or at the
Oh, the
entrance.
booth, yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
There's a lot of
Where
people
the-
that go in and out there.
That would be the
Where
way to
they-
give it
where
to
they
them,
check your
just,
whatever
Yeah.
pass or
With your
whatever
receipt,
they
yeah.
do there.
yeah. I like it.
Yeah. And depending on where you post stuff, like maybe if we get some of them laminated or something to
Yeah.
protect against rain.
That's a good idea.
Should be able
In
to.
some certain locations.
Someone's gotta have a laminator in this office.
I'm sure there's one in this building somewhere.
I like the graphics they produced for this.
I think they were
On
good.
the small and the large version.
Yeah.
All right, so
We need to go-
you're gonna be on flyer
Yeah, well, yeah.
coordination.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be in
And
touch.
then we can talk more about August 6th, using some of the things that maybe you're gonna produce now. Some other things we might want to talk about. Maybe we'll try to get some stuff from the mayors, like giveaways or something as well, to entice people. Anyone who fills out a survey on the spot, their kid can take home a Lego set or something. Forgot about the
Yeah, I did.
treasure chest up there. Okay, good progress with all that. So, John will move over to the school bus.
I could talk about that,
Process.
or do we want to jump to
Oh,
green
let me
communities?
ask.
'Cause
Yeah,
she's
I
gonna
was
leave
going to
at
do
4.
that. Yeah, let me do that.
Okay.
Cassie, anything that you want to touch on there?
For electric vehicles?
Green
or-
communities?
Green communities.
Whatever.
Yeah, or anything else that's on your
Or, yeah.
your radar that you want to discuss now?
It's mainly just green communities, so.
Okay.
Last meeting I was talking about how, or last like notes that I sent out, I'm planning to start working on the report again, probably August, September. So that, because that's like the new, it's the new fiscal year, and I can start entering the data from the previous fiscal year. But it's not due until like November, October typically.
Right.
So we definitely have a good chunk of time to get that done. And then for the grant that we got for the Teslas, that one, I just did my most recent quarterly report, and the chief was able to tell me that they got them outfitted with all this stuff, which is awesome. And now all we really need to do, and then dispose of the 2 vehicles that replace them,
Okay.
which is awesome. And then I just need to get, do like this training with all the users, is how I described it in the grant proposal. Just talking about like, hey, here's how to use this most efficiently. My focus is gonna be like, here's how to talk to people about it. If you take these like vents and like show them off, that'd be sweet.
Mhm.
And then, but one of them is in the shop right now, again, because someone's weird, someone's looking at the lights, I understand. So hopefully when they're both back, we'll do it, but it will definitely happen within the next like quarter, which is like the next 3 months or so.
Okay.
Because, I want to submit the final report, as my next report should be the final report, and meet their quarterly, so,
Okay.
that's like kind of my deadline, but hopefully it shouldn't take that long, so.
So one of the things that we talked about quite a bit at the last meeting was the whole issue of chargers. And I didn't know that we had a level 3 charger, which is good news, but I'm wondering, those are the only 2 EVs that the city owns right
That's my
now.
understanding.
Okay,
And the level 3 charger is at the safety complex for those?
Is that where it is?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's the
Yeah.
case. I haven't seen them yet, but they are over there, so I think, is what the chief has told me, so.
But is anyone, no one's using the vehicles yet?
I
Or they
think that
are?
now that they've been outfitted, they probably are starting to.
Okay.
So I don't know how much or what capacity they're using them yet. That'll be part of like the meeting and training stuff. It's like, who's using this and what's the pattern of behavior, but, actually I should know that because I'm pretty sure the chief's already told me it's part of the grant process. So I probably already have that information, but I don't remember what it is.
I-
Are there two?
So is there anything out there about, I mean, when you say that the city now has Teslas, to me, that is like a really expensive vehicle. And is the public aware that there was a major grant to pay for these?
We've tried very hard to get that information.
Well, two
Because-
things.
So they're not thinking they're paying for them.
Yeah, like why is the city buying these?
But the other
That was in the
reason,
newspaper. I thought there was some
We didn't- we-
discussion of that in the paper about the reason for those.
because the primary reason is that at the time, those were the only vehicles that met the criteria that could be purchased. There wasn't anything else out
There
there.
was, so the
Specs.
several factors. That was part of it, is that was what the police department felt like met the safety standards and performance standards that they wanted the vehicle to
Yeah.
have. You know, my criteria was like, it just needs to be an EV, but that was one that actually conformed and then had precedence of acting as a police vehicle. Ipswich has had one, and
You don't have to sell me, it's more
I know,
like,
but I'm kind of saying it for the recording too, or for the record. It's just like, and then there was discussion though about the cost. The grant was for $7,500 per vehicle. So it wasn't a huge grant, frankly, for the cost of them, but it kind of helps you get through to get it done. So they were expensive, but there was reasons why those were chosen, not just because like.
So you're suggesting that that information be included in what how it's presented to the public?
Yes.
Got it, okay. Yeah,
So
good
that
point.
it's not that, somebody wanted just a really nice car.
Right.
That there was funding available.
Who's actually gonna do that representation? Is it you in the planning department,
Well,
or is it the police department?
Well, the way I've done it in the grant is that I was gonna give like this training and then kind of create like a little pamphlet that they can hand out to people if they want to even. Because my hope is that they won't use these vehicles when they do like a detail at like an event. And then they have to be parked there anyways. And so like maybe they could be prepared to talk to people about them and have it in the way that you just described. And so it'll be the police officers using them, ideally. I know the chief can already speak to it, obviously. He was there with me for the appropriation request where we had some public input. It was made known then that probably was in the paper. But yeah, so that's my expectation, is that it'll be users.
It was only 15,000 total?
Correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason I was adding a zero to the
It's
end of
like
that.
That's hard to
So it
believe.
was the tax rebate.
I think there's also part of it, but I don't really know.
City
how that
doesn't get
happens.
tax rebate,
Maybe not.
I believe.
Yeah,
So-
maybe not.
They get a grant maybe here, but through community, but
Yeah.
you don't, they're not eligible for the one that citizens.
It's only 750, that's the same as.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
that's why.
maybe that's why. And
Yeah.
it's a prescribed grant by Green Communities. You can't ask for more. You can ask for, you can get 7,500 per vehicle. That's it. It's like a very like set thing. Otherwise, obviously, I would ask for the whole thing, but but yeah.
So does that mean that we now have to start talking about what we want to request for the next grant?
Yes. So
Okay.
yeah. So we should brainstorm. I think maybe I'll try to come more prepared for the next meeting in August about what we can do because we should become eligible again, assuming that we like get the report in on time, which we did for the last year, so that's good. And I just need to figure out like when, because at least they were doing a spring and fall grant round. So maybe for the fall grant round, we could even try to go for something. It just needs to make sense. It needs to like be something that I can like handle in terms of like managing. So we have to figure that
Do
out.
they provide grant money for electric bikes? Because that might offset the Tesla image and the public employees can't get around to things and electric bikes.
Are the bikes that you can rent, are they?
That-
Because
they've
in
got
New York,
many
they have them.
They're EV, but they're gone for now.
Yeah.
Right, they're kaput until they find a new owner for that.
Yeah, the mayor talked about that at the last
Operator.
meeting. She is looking into some possible ways to
Yeah,
get
they're talking about
back.
City Bike or some of the other
Okay.
corporate sponsored
Yeah.
programs coming here.
Yeah, we're not alone in it. Probably would.
Yeah.
I mean, my thought would be like just another group effort between all the other cities
Right.
who were partnered in that. So, but I don't know what this current status of this thing is going to be a minute until they get back up.
What is this grant comes from what agency, government agency?
My understanding is division of, it's DOER. Can't remember
It's-
what
oh,
that
it's
stands for.
DOER.
Yeah,
Okay.
Green Communities administered by DOER.
Okay, so it's a green can.
Not DEP is involved.
No.
For some reason.
There is another electric vehicle thing that
Yeah,
DEP
yeah,
does, so it's
yeah.
kind of confusing, but last time when I was looking into it, they're like, you can't go for both.
Yeah.
You have to do one.
Yeah.
It's very like, they were very set
Siloed,
rules.
yeah.
Yep.
So-
And it's not just transportation, sorry. Yeah, it isn't just
Oh, yeah.
transportation,
No,
right?
there's a ton of different stuff that
Right.
you can do through it. So, and it probably has changed since I was last taking a hard look at it for this one. I mean, that was like
Right.
years ago now, so,
And
yeah.
do we know what the fall deadline would be? We need to look that
I
up.
don't even know,
Okay.
yeah. I'll plan to come to the next meeting with better info about what we can do.
Okay.
So back to the level 3 chargers.
Yes.
I am willing to try somehow come up with the money to fund one of these because it would be, I don't know how long it would take for the city to come up with funding and given what the mayor said, it doesn't sound like there's much interest even to get the level 2 chargers going, but it does seem like this is pretty key to, if the push is to get EV vehicles and more usage, it's pretty hard to do it. I think my goal would be to get Connie into an EV.
Well,
Just give her the money directly.
Well, it's the charging that's the
it's
issue.
the charging and the distance. I mean, it's like charging here, but also like, because I have a son who lives in
Range.
Weymouth, I don't know how I would charge it
How
in
many
Weymouth.
miles is it?
You know, it's like, I think that's like 80, 90 miles. I can
Yeah.
get there, but I have to charge it once I get there if I'm gonna stay for a while.
Now,
That's my
you get a
issue.
Chevy Bolt or something.
You know what, we shouldn't be talking about this right
Yeah.
now. I know. This is a private conversation, we can have it another time.
That's true. I knew your kids'
Yeah.
locations off of, but yeah.
So there are a couple of companies that will, advise in terms of how to get all this set up. And just looking at some of the rebate funding sources, they did say that if it's on public property, they're more inclined to go with
Yeah.
funding it.
Honestly, my perspective is it's not hard to get assistance in installing chargers, installing them. It's paying for the
Yes.
electricity use after that is the huge barrier in terms of cost.
Right.
Well, and that's all about demand, right?
Demand charge, it's
Right.
the rate structure that Eversource has for using the vehicles.
But the mayor said in our last meeting that the legislature, and I tried to find that, I did send Dan Carey an email asking me about it. I couldn't find anything that looked like a bill that was going to change the fact that Eversource treats cities like municipalities, and they charge them this outrageous rate. And the mayor said there's
Wait,
a
you
bill.
mean they treat cities like businesses? Because
Yes.
cities are municipalities.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Not
yeah,
like
I said the wrong
businesses.
thing, thank
Right,
you.
right.
And she said there's a bill that was passed that is stopping that, but I don't know, I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
I tried to find it, and I haven't heard back from Dan, but I just sent him the email last week, so. Do you know anything about
Yes,
that?
and she emailed me about it, and it was talked about when I went to this free charge Massachusetts symposium, because that was the big focus of it, was trying to get EVs and help people do that. And we talked about all the changes that have come very recently from Eversource and National Grid in terms of being more supportive. One of the things that they developed was this demand charge rebate program or reimbursement program or something that specifically talks about the issue that we're having, but it doesn't work out here because we don't have enough. You'd have to have, 10 or 11 charging stations out there at 50 paces per meter to make it be something that we were eligible for. And you wonder if, we have two. And
Eligible for under the utilities program?
no, to get, I don't know if it's through the utilities program or it's just a program that Eversource, it's a utilities program that Eversource has created.
So,
it's
but
very
is
helpful.
this
But
part
that's-
of what the mayor said that there's a bill that
Yes.
was passed? That's what
That-
this
They
is.
created that in response to this bill.
So that- but that's not really doing
Sounds like it's up in the air.
But it doesn't,
No.
Western Mass is still falling into this weird forgotten zone, feels like, in terms of these changes. A lot of the changes that they made, I think, in response to that bill, were very impactful.
Do you
So
know
just
what the bill
Cambridge-
number
I have
is
to
by
look it
any
up, I'm
chance?
sorry.
If you
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
find it, would you send it to me? I'd love to look
Oh, I
at
definitely
it.
have it.
Thank you.
And is that for private or municipalities? Is there a distinction there?
it seems like, I think it's either, but it's because it's only would be businesses or municipalities that would have that many chargers in one location.
Well-
Or even have level threes. I can't imagine many individuals getting level threes. Anyway.
I'm going to talk to these two companies and see if they have any ways to deal with that.
So at that symposium, it was a rep from Eversource and National Grid there, and I asked them it directly during the presentation. I said, we have this many chargers, we're getting kicked through the demand charge. Would this apply to us? And they said, well, no, actually, and here's why. And so I have tried. You can definitely do it too, but I think they would tell you the same thing, is that oh yeah, we're working on that. Because it just doesn't, they need to create a new rate plan for us that gives us a special EV charging thing. I think part of the problem is that it's very hard to get transmission of electricity from where it's being generated to here. A lot of maybe we need more transmission lines that people probably are
Well, that's
issues
that's
too.
the other big thing, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's what kind of creates this demand charge problem, but.
It doesn't make any sense to me for the amount of electric vehicles and chargers that are out there now. I can't imagine that our transmission lines are currently incapable of handling
I think that
that.
the difference in Western Mass compared to Eastern Mass is pretty significant in terms of I don't know. I mean, we're kind of out of my wheelhouse here in terms of
Okay.
the technical
We
side of
need a
things.
microgrid.
But
Right.
I will reach out to them again and try to get more directly.
Who's the
but-
contact, do you know the Eversource contact who deals with the Easthampton and municipalities?
I can't remember,
No.
I have to look that up
Yeah.
for sorry.
Do you know is there a point person for the city who always is the one who's gonna call up Eversource about any of these issues?
Maybe the procurement officer, I should double check, because it's different,
Procurement,
because, you know, it might be DPW office.
Right,
and-
DBW is probably for maintenance of lines and,
So I guess the only other possibility would be, I think the mayor even mentioned this, I can't remember, but would be instead of each city in this area buying a couple of chargers, somehow do it as a consortium purchase, and then we would have enough so that they would have to let us have the rebate. I don't know if that's possible,
Yeah.
but, because we'd have to own them together or
Yeah.
something. I don't know how that would work.
Or
but-
they would manage it,
Yeah.
but, because that was the thing, it was like amount of demand per meter. So like out there, we have 4 ports, but they're all on the same meter. So they were saying like, you really would need to have like 10 or 11 ports on that 1 meter to become eligible. So, but it would be really expensive to pay for them.
to
They
be
call-
eligible for the rebate. To be
Yeah, and it's
eligible.
like, would we just be in the same situation where it's so expensive generally for electricity with the rebate, just kind of makes it right to where we were before, if that makes sense?
So-
I don't really know how to explain it.
So here's a question. So
Yeah.
if by some bizarre chance we actually got 10 ports, but they were only used consistently by 3 cars, is the fact that we have the 10 ports, that's
I
interesting.
think so. My understanding at least. I have to double check.
Well, I think that's what the co-op put in, because I think they have 10 of them there. Because I know that there was a difference. 10 was sort of the magic number. So I think that's why they put in what they did, which basically covered all the infrastructure costs to put those in. So they're still paying for the electricity, but I can't imagine it's the same rate as what the cities.
I would think that it is. The
Alright.
demand charges must exist.
Yeah, but the
in them.
demand charge is
Varies.
based on,
10
you know,
Max
if
peak
everybody
use.
who works for the city comes in and turns on their equipment or lights at the same time, that sets your demand charge.
Yeah.
So if you're, have a business like the co-op, their demand charge may not be as high as the cities.
Actually, yeah. That might be how it works, because it was
Wow.
confusing for me when I learned about it, and my
See-
understanding is that when we reach a certain threshold of electricity called for, it starts charging.
So it
us
doesn't
this
matter how many ports, it
That's
has to do
okay.
with how much electricity is actually pulled.
I think
Well,
so.
there's
Okay,
two
we need to do some
Sorry.
research.
Two
different- yeah.
To do some
Yeah, there's
research.
two
But-
different things. There's the getting them installed.
Right,
and
no,
then
I
there's the
understand that, but
operating.
I am confused though, because the way the mayor was talking, she seemed to be under the impression that this bill would change how we were gonna get charged.
Right, and I think that that is a reasonable assumption to make, but when I went to this symposium, I asked them so explicitly.
Yeah.
Like, I went up to them after and like made sure too, that like, is there another way? And like,
And they said,
then at the end too, they were talking about all these, you know, they would ask for, you know, summaries of everyone's experience, and I was like, and this again, like, it's a problem. So
Yeah.
no one seemed to counter me on that or say that that
so they're not really
wasn't- my
interested in
understanding
solving
was
this
correct.
problem, Eversource.
I don't know that that's true. It just, I think it's like a hard problem, because.
Well,
if the
really, it
public-
sounds like the state needs to subsidize Western Massachusetts.
Potentially.
Right.
And I'm not saying that that bill might result in exactly what the mayor is talking about. I just don't know that it exists right
Okay,
now for
all
us to take it
right.
to.
Whatever you can find out.
I know,
Kelsey.
no,
Thank
fair
you.
enough. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I'm working on it, so.
I think the company that they use is Voltec or Voltrek.
We'll track, yep, yeah.
You know, they might be a source in terms of.
Oh, I've been talking to them,
Yeah.
yep. So we use ChargePoint, and then we do the like work is through Voltrek. So
Yeah.
definitely have talked to them about it before. There's not much that they have to say about how Eversource charges us financially, like the bill is us, excuse me. The word charge
Yeah.
is painful in this situation, but it's.
Yeah.
What do you mean they don't have much to say? I mean, could they explain?
They're a contractor.
Yeah, so I talked to them about, you know, would it be possible, you know, Eversource explained to me how we trigger the demand charge, and they're like, well, it's the amount of usage. So I talked to ChargePoint/Voltrek, like, it could be throttled machines, so they never trigger the demand charge.
Right.
And you could, but they would be so slow, people would think they're broken, and they wouldn't be serving the public in the way we want them to. So that was how I spoke to them about it in the past, but I just don't, they don't seem to have any control over how Eversource
And
bills
this,
us.
this
so.
company you're referring to is Voltrek?
Voltrek, yeah.
Oh, Voltrek,
VOL.
right, got it.
TREK, yeah. And so we have a contract with them as well. It's like a maintenance contract.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay.
Does anybody actually know what these demand charges amount to in their worst scenarios as a cost of fuel compared to gasoline? Like Steve Zielinski was saying at the last meeting, and I agree that I think some people, I just want to get my frickin' car charged. You know, I'll go home and get cheap electricity overnight or whatever, but right now I'm in a hurry, I need to get some gas, I'll pay what I pay, you know.
People who use the EV chargers do not feel the demand charge cost. It's only the city. Because we just charge them a flat.
Okay,
There's no way to
right.
have it match.
Right, well, there's okay, there's no way
And
to
that's why
charge
there's
them.
money losing.
We gotta have some way to charge the people who use
Well,
the meters.
we asked the mayor
Is he
about that.
charging?
She said that it's so the demand charge is so high and also inconsistent.
Yes, it doesn't
That it's
match.
very difficult to add that onto the charge that people pay when they use the
Right,
charger.
and if
That's why I think the co-op is different, because they
Right.
give you an hour for free.
Yeah.
So.
We could do that too. I mean, it depends. It makes such a small dent in the way that you can set the fee structure for people who are using the EV chargers does not match how the demand charge is generated. And if there isn't a way to make it match, I've tried.
Because it's inconsistent.
Right.
It's
I mean, I
different
wonder
how
if
it's
the,
generated. Yeah.
if the co-op's using it as some sort of like loss leader thing as well. I
They
mean,
might
you know,
just
or
need it. Yeah.
maybe, I don't know how much that would cost them in the course of a year.
Or I don't know
Relate,
if
by
they're
the
able
way.
to draw off of their solar.
Right, if they're able to, right, because, well, they do have the net meter, and then, you know, I mean, the city has plenty of solar too, but we can't really like set it to offset
Put
that
a little
specifically,
line
whereas
extension
they're
cord.
like, again, they're probably not on just one meter there, but their aggregate metering can probably, yeah, offset some of that cost. And maybe it's enough, because they have that whole canopy there, maybe it's even more than what they use in the building, and so like it does like negate the electric vehicle
It's
charging.
probably built it into their utility budget at this point. You know, we're getting so much of our electricity use covered by offsets from our
Yeah.
solar, from the solar farm, from the landfill, from the school, whatever.
Yeah,
And
for the
so you
city,
start
yeah.
assuming that that's, you know, a regular asset of yours, and maybe
Right.
it's not available for special favors. You know.
Well, the other thing is with the co-op too, is they were even making some of their solar available through like a community solar program for like low income folks. So that means they're obviously generating enough that they can carve out some for that, and that's probably revenue generating for them on some level.
Since I had reached out to them anyways for trying to do the climate action plan, I would just ask them like, how do you?
Yeah, see if they have somebody there. And I
You know,
wonder if there's like an
I'm curious.
Eversource like, or whatever, like governmental affairs person that would be amenable to a call to like talk to somebody about like.
There definitely is.
Yeah.
So when I first went down this rabbit hole, I talked to someone there, and they're really helpful. So I need to just do it again.
Yeah, or
and
we can,
update.
somebody on this side can do
Oh,
it,
yeah.
and like, with a curiosity wants to ask some questions. Because I want to let you, it's after 4,
I know.
so.
Yeah, I should go.
Thank you so
I'm trying
much,
to think if there's
Kelsey.
anything else?
But I do want to bring it back around to what Bruce was talking about,
Yeah.
to sort of start this as well, which is kind of your vision for like what, you know, you or somehow like bankrolling, you know, a level 3 charger, like what in your mind does that look like?
Well, I think the part of it is where to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if there is a way to solve that, then talking with one of these companies who deal with all the paperwork in terms of getting the funding, you know, helping through the process.
Mm-hmm.
But having some idea of where it's going to go is sort of the first step.
Okay.
It does seem,
Oh, it's okay. I'm listening to those still.
so, to me, you know, just personally, when I see about the issues of trying to get more EV, this is the first thing that comes up
Yeah.
right away. And
Yeah.
how do you sort of break that logjam?
Yeah.
Because the level 2 ones, you know, they're great if you can leave your car there all night.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe one of these bills or something that's coming down the pike would be helpful, but how long is that going to take?
Mhm.
You know, and I would need to personally do some research about, you know, looking into these things. They cost $50,000 for the charge point level 3
Mhm.
charger. So what sort of help is that? And then setting up the power source is the other part. You know,
Mhm.
can that happen independent of the city?
What do you mean? I don't understand what you mean by that.
Independent of the city?
You gotta-
No,
you
the
gotta-
power source.
It's the
The
infrastructure
transformer.
on the other side of the charger that goes to that connects to the transformer and others that connect to the utility line.
You
Yeah.
mean like if we put it You mean like like if you put it in my backyard, then it would come from it would be put on my electrical bill. If you put it in the parking lot, it'll go on the city's electric bill. Is that what you mean?
Well, but if you have in order to do a level 3, you need a transformer because you're not going to have enough
It's a
power
voltage.
in your
Okay.
house. So in terms of setting that up, if the issue is this big demand charge for the city, could that be set up and have it handled independently so it doesn't get tied up in the city's?
Right.
So there'd have to be a separate transformer? Why would there have to be a separate transformer though?
Sorry, guys.
Okay, thanks,
Good to
Kathy.
see you all. Goodbye.
Bye, take care.
Thanks.
I'll see you Thursday, I think.
I don't know if there would be, but it's one of those questions
Yeah.
of, because it seems to me this demand charge thing is a little strange unless the city has such a high, because of the usage issue, that their demand charge is so high that is prohibitive of this, that they're not even hooking up the level 2 charger that they have at the school. How do you get around that?
Right.
Yeah, I don't understand it. It just all seems very odd. But the transformer piece, I used to live in a neighborhood. I remember we kept losing our electricity until they put in a separate transformer for our neighborhood, but we all benefited from that one transformer.
Yeah.
I don't see why there'd have to be a separate one for each level 3
Well,
charger.
There doesn't if you have more than one level 3 charger.
Right. It's basically, like that transformer's dropping voltage to a usable level for all the homes. A level 3 charger is not using like 110 voltage line. It's using something higher.
But if there
I
already
guess.
is one in existence, it's not the transformer that's the issue, it's the
Right.
use.
If there's enough to feed it.
Okay, there might not be. I see, now I see. Okay.
So that's one of the questions that would have to be
Okay.
answered. And if it's this transformer that's set up for the city's use,
Okay.
is there a way to separate that out?
God, now I understand. Okay.
Yeah, and then there's right. Sometimes with each transformer, there's capacity issues as well. Like how much capacity is already on this? Can you add something that might create this extra demand? I think that's maybe where some of this demand charge comes from. Is
Yeah.
you're putting more load behind one transformer, and like if that, there's consequences for how much load any given part of the grid can handle. Right. So yeah, every one of these that you add adds to the potential load.
Yeah, there's a physical limit, but that doesn't explain to me the high rate that they charge at. Because either getting the money from you for it doesn't change the physical limits. You follow me?
Yeah, it's very confusing because it seems like what they're saying is you have to use a certain amount of electricity before they'll give you the rebate. You have to have 10 or 12 ports, and you have to, so does it mean that unless you're using that much, they hit you with this huge bill? I just don't
You
understand.
need to go do research.
Yeah,
We keep
we're not
saying
going to
we
hash it out
understand.
here,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah, there's lots of things that play into it. I mean, when you get into the matters of like the electricity market and real-time pricing, like
Yeah.
price fluctuations and demand charges for these large electricity users is something that they have to factor, and then that's where people are doing power trading and like trying to
Yeah, it almost seems like
make money.
maybe it's
based on-
more like, if you're buying something, if you buy 1,000 of them, they're 2 cents a piece, but if you buy 2, they're $100. Maybe that's what our problem is, I don't know.
I think that gets at part of it.
I think that, I'm wondering if you wouldn't be, the simplest thing for you is to go, if you're wanting to get into this service business, whatever, is to talk to a private business that has a lot of customers, that like Big E or River Valley Market or somebody who might partner with you in it.
That's a good idea.
You have some money that might be attractive to them, they have a location, maybe they put some money up. I don't know how their demand charge would vary, but
Yeah, the only thing I need to figure out is, in some of the stuff that I saw, it was, the funding was available more for public property, if it was on public property. And I don't, maybe, all this stuff is changing, I think, fairly rapidly, so whether that's current or not, I don't know.
okay.
Yeah. And then back to your sort of original thing, is the question is there a way to get this on a separate meter? Is I put it on public property, but have it on a meter that's not the city's, essentially?
Yeah.
And that then I don't know, maybe a private enterprise would run that and charge people for it? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah,
Or?
that's sort of, so it's not tied up in the city.
Right.
That seems to be the problem.
Right.
You know, I'd be really curious to just hear what the demand charge is that the
Okay.
city is paying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the mayor has that information, you know, it's available. It's absolutely available.
Yeah.
We should ask the planning department to track it down. I mean, it
Yeah,
sounds
again,
like-
they
it sounds like
procurement, maybe know
Cassie has seen this stuff and she
Yeah.
can get her hands on it. She just needs to get her to pull some actual numbers for us.
So just out of curiosity, what's happening with the electricity that's being generated from the solar at the landfill? Does that go back to Eversource?
Well, it all goes
It goes
back.
into the system.
Yeah, but it's offsetting some of the municipal usage. I think they may still get, the city may still get SRECs for that one.
Yeah, it's probably,
I believe it's generating SRECs for the city.
For the city.
Yeah, and then we also have a long-term contract, PPA, with solar in Deerfield that is again offsetting some of the municipal use. So I believe that's the
I would
two.
think the city gets the credits, you know, the net metering credits essentially against our electrical account. I thought it's subsidizing our utility budget and we're not paying for so much of
believe
it.
so, and I think that it's
And then-
also maybe generating some SRECs on
But
top
how
of
does
that.
how does the builder, how
part of
does
the initial,
Yeah.
the contractor
but that's the
get,
issue.
what benefits is there to the contractor if the contractor is not getting the SRECs? I'm trying to think of what else
The one who built it?
yeah. I don't
Well,
think,
I mean,
I don't
they-
think they were paid, you know, millions of dollars to go, it was their capital that built it, I believe. It was the private contractor's capital on the landfill that built it, kind of like they put it on our roof. You get the company come and put it on your roof.
Right.
Either they
Well-
give you a lower rate, you know, you might get a lower rate for what you pay, and
Well, either
get
you own
credits.
it or you don't own it, right? Either you're paying them for the system, and then they'd have no use
Right.
paying them. So, yeah, this is the case where we just probably paid for the system. It's town-owned land, you know, they paid for the system, and then the contractor's done. Then the city owns it, they own everything that's generated from it. They have a maintenance contract with somebody probably to come in and do the ongoing work with the maintenance,
That's
versus
what
like the solar field in Deerfield, a separate developer owns that, and we pay a monthly price for all the, you know, the energy that we've agreed to purchase from them. Or a
Okay.
per kilowatt hour
I
price.
thought,
There's also the
Well,
depreciation that they're able to take, you know, there's,
if they own it, they continue to own it. But if the city owns it, because if we're owning all the output from it, I think the city would have to own the system.
was it a lease setup? Do you know?
Maybe it could be set up. I don't know.
Was there another one that they were gonna put in and got,
There is the other one that went in, but I don't think it's owned by the city. I mean, there's a few more that have been going in, right? There's one off of Park Street, kind of between, like just south of the new middle school. There's a field there that there's a multi-megawatt solar field on. There's one that's going in off Florence Road, behind one of the farms there, kind of between Florence Road, like, between there and like the backside of Park Hill Orchard. Like in that pocket, you can see there's a dirt road they built back in there where they're putting that one in. But those were more like private developers, I think, that are then, you know, owning and operating these. Is not related to the city and city's use per se. I think those are the only two solar interests. Well, then plus this one, the systems on the schools. But I think those are just offsetting building usage.
I'm curious, does each of those have to get permitted through the planning department?
The ones in the schools?
Or just in?
Oh, yeah, those other ones, yes, have to get permitted through the planning department. And then previously, there was, you know, some talk about, and there was a sort of a group committee put together that I went to some meetings on about maybe doing a solar ordinance to try to limit some of that, or try to put some parameters around what would be allowable within the city, protecting farmland. Potentially the Conservation Commission was interested in coming at it from that standpoint. You know, making sure that we're not overdoing it, or like, you know, cutting down too many trees to put in a solar field kind of thing. Ended up not
Well, there was litigation, right?
There was litigation and
That had to be resolved at the state level.
right, and so it turned out we didn't end up doing a solar ordinance in town as a result of that because there were some external factors that were gonna potentially limit what could be done. But yeah, there was definitely worry about a lot of private developers coming in, working with private landowners and then just like putting up a bunch of stuff without, not circumventing the planning process, but like, not getting to do like full public hearing or like full review of things, I don't know.
Yeah, just back to the microgrid idea, it's sort of like if you could capture all that as part of the city's infrastructure,
Yeah.
what does all that come up to? And even if you had a inventory of all the stuff that's even on private homes, what is that number for the city? As a comparison to other cities,
Well,
what is that?
This is what the climate action plan should be putting numbers on. What do we have for solar right now?
Yeah.
Private, public, whatever. And a little worrying because they seem to want to just focus on what we're using for fossil fuels. We should understand if 10% of our houses or 2% of our homes are powered by solar.
Yeah. I mean, again, they're bound by the limits of the money on hand to do what they're being asked to do in terms of like how deep they can go on some of this. I don't think they can do a full housing. The Weston and Sampson, because they have a grant for a certain amount of money to produce a plan, and I think I don't know how deep they can go to do a full housing,
Well, they're
solar
not going to run
inventory.
down every street and count like I'm ready to do, or was thinking about doing, but the assessor's, Cassie thought that the assessor's office probably has a record, or the inspector's department should have, because of the permits that are pulled, they should have a record of how many homes and what kilowatt, how big their systems are.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
Another day.
Another day. So, I mean, as far as advancing your thoughts to the next, into more actionable items potentially, what would you say is, the next thing, part of it is we got to understand the demand charge and what we're subject to here. And the other would be, you've got said a couple companies who would potentially be interested in helping with the process.
Yeah, I'll talk to them, and then
Okay.
next meeting I'll let you know what I find out.
Okay.
If there's any path forward with this idea.
Yeah, whatever experience they may have doing this elsewhere certainly comes to bear on how we might do it here.
It's such an interesting idea. It'll be very interesting to see if it's possible, with all of the, government issues associated with it, like the private, public.
And essentially you want it to be in a sort of high visibility, high traffic location.
Well,
Or-
if, I know where the level 3 chargers are, just without anybody's, you just go to ChargePoint app.
Yeah.
It'll tell you where the level 3 chargers are. And, if you need
Okay.
them, you just look on their app and you can tell whether they're open, they're available, how much they charge.
Okay.
So it's not like you have to put a sign up on the highway.
Yeah.
The problem with cities like Easthampton, part of the new infrastructure bill, is they were focusing on stations within a mile of the interstate. And that's what they're going to fund. A city like Easthampton is probably down on the list, in terms of getting high-level government funding.
I think the mayor's house is within an hour, a mile of the
There you go,
interstate.
boy.
So.
Oh yeah, that's a great
Where is your house?
idea. What a great
To put
idea.
this on the
But you actually,
it's publicly available.
so I wonder if the new entrance to Mount Tom is within a mile, because that's
Mount Tom Trailhead?
Yeah, you have that
on
new
East Street,
entrance.
East Street.
So I wonder if that's probably not.
No, it is. That's definitely within a mile.
Yeah, actually, I think it's a mile from the old exit 18.
That's definitely within a mile of the interstate.
At least that's
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not even within a mile of the exit, but it's within a mile of the interstate, which goes over East Street.
Oh, by as a crow flies.
Yeah.
But cars
I
can't
don't
fly.
think-
Cars can't fly if you have no one notice.
Not yet.
Even EVs.
But I'm trying to think of what other, because that over there you've got the whole EverSource transformer right there too. And I'm sure, I don't know if there's any other city-owned land there, maybe by the bike path,
Is those ones by
the parking lot of the bike path. Yeah.
Ferry Street or behind the Mills? Where's that?
Well, they
Where?
already have, they have level 2 charters, so
I
maybe
know.
that would work.
Behind what?
Behind the mill buildings there.
I don't know if there's level 2
Yeah.
there. but
Yeah, there are level 2s there.
Behind the mill building?
Well, somewhere
On the
there,
bike
she was
path
talking
there.
about them.
Yeah, that's down by 5 Ferry Street.
Oh, okay.
Which are-
The other mills, the old mills.
Did Eastworks put any in back behind them?
I
I
haven't
don't
seen
know.
it.
Yeah, okay.
I could probably
That'd
tell
be a
you.
good thing for Riverside to have access to.
I don't think there are any back there.
all their
Yeah.
mills.
I don't know. Thought maybe I
Anyway.
was remember them talking about putting some back there at some point.
I'm interested in doing, following up on that and doing some research and making work with you a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's.
From different angles, trying
So
to
I
pin
hate,
down exactly
can
how
we
this
move on
works.
though, because we have some other
Yeah.
stuff on the
Yeah,
agenda.
there are a couple things.
And
Yep,
just-
absolutely. But yes.
School buses is quick.
School
Yeah.
bus is quick. Well, I figured it would be, but 'cause
Yeah.
I know you've done some outreach, and I don't know, you've had a lot of feedback or response.
Well, I started with the mayor of like, as a committee member, who did she suggest I speak to set up,
Right.
get us set up on the agenda? Didn't get an answer from that email to the mayor's. Is there, that the formal mail she uses, mayor at Easthampton?
Yeah,
That's how
exactly.
she uses email, okay. And I contacted Maren,
Right.
and who's a former member of this committee and who's on the school committee. He just said they're busy. They've got a busy agenda the next few months. I guess they're still dealing with who's going to become the final
Well, they got
superintendent.
that.
Oh, they got that
The,
stuff,
the,
okay.
the interim one is now
Yeah.
settled.
Okay. So,
It seems like you should ask someone other than
We'll let him go
though.
through what he's gone, what else he's done, because there's more to it.
Okay.
so I also sent an email to Kuczynski.
Cindy, yeah,
The name?
the chair, yeah.
The chair,
Kuczynski, too.
yeah.
No answer on that.
Right.
Hmm.
And I sent an email to the Hampshire Regional School District School
Mhm.
Committee Chair for Hampshire Regional. Haven't heard from her. I have heard from Northampton and the guy we're going to meet
Okay.
to start talking about this stuff a bit maybe next week.
Okay. Let me know when you're going to meet. I may be able to join
Okay,
you if I
yeah.
can. I'd like
Yeah.
to.
So you contacted 2 people on our school committee about this, and you have not received any responses?
No, Marin answered me. He said, he
Okay.
just said, look to get on the agenda.
Yeah.
I didn't ask him who to talk to. I said,
But the chair will be putting the agenda together, and she
Yeah.
didn't
He
respond.
said, talk to try to get on the agenda for
And the
September,
mayor is
October.
on-
The summer would be very busy.
The mayor
Okay.
is, the mayor's on the school committee too. Don't forget. So, but there are other people. I mean, I know a couple people on the school committee who maybe would be more receptive. I don't know if they can get us on the agenda directly, but
Yeah.
like maybe we get a
Yeah.
response.
I know, and interestingly, the Northampton committee the school committee had a subcommittee, I forget what the guy called it, but something like an operations
Yeah.
committee, subcommittee, which is, in some ways, it's the logical place to start. You get them to recommend to the full committee
Right.
that we take this up, instead of coming in cold and nobody's heard about it.
Does our school committee have like
I
subcommittees?
have not
like
heard
that?
about it. I've been trying to find out, so
Okay.
I haven't really
I'm
gone
not sure
through
if they did or not.
The other thing is I did look up.
I'm sorry, I have to ask you a question. So you're meeting with the
A
Northampton?
member of the Northampton School Committee who's on a committee there that is talking about school bus electrification and wants to talk about regional joint,
So
joint approaches.
you are going to meet with that person?
Yeah, we don't have a
Okay.
date yet.
Okay,
It should
okay.
it should be next week possibly. I did look up the grant rules for the electric bus grant program, and DOT, I guess it's, I don't remember anymore, I guess
Yeah,
the
so
soup
many, I
agency,
know.
but anyway, the big one that all the money's coming out of. And from what I read, we don't fit any category that makes us a special pot of money for bus grants, as was suggested by the mayor, because
Right,
we
she
are
suggested because
rural.
we're rural, right?
And what they said is a rural grantee has to order something like, was it at least 15 buses? I think it was at least 15 buses to be, to get a grant. They
How
want
many
this,
do
they
we
want this to
use?
be 7, I think, something like 7.
Well, but
Or
if we
or
do
the
it
money can go to
regionally- Go ahead.
or the money can go to a bus transportation company,
Right.
but who serves that community, but they have to buy 50. So, hey, maybe down the line, if we do have a regional thing, approach with Durham and Hampshire, Easthampton, Northampton, want to try to organize something together, maybe that's conceivable. But so right now, I don't think it's a shoe. And personally, I can't. Maybe I'll have to talk to Durham. But the other idea, which is, I can't conceive of it, how it would work in Durham's interest, that we buy the buses, and even though we don't run our system, and lease them to Durham to run our services. I just can't conceive of how they would do that.
Right, because then they're not going to get the
But
grants and
isn't-
depreciation or any of that
Why
stuff.
would we want to risk our equipment
Right.
in the hands of a private contractor who has no particular financial interest in taking good care of them?
So I just had a question about that from the last meeting, though, because isn't that similar? One of the things that you described, a company would purchase them and then lease them to a vendor, but isn't there a company that does that?
There's a company that supplies the capital, they'll own the bus. They will,
Maintain it.
they own them. They will lease them to like a Durham,
Right.
and Durham can operate them.
And do they maintain them? Does the
Yeah,
vendor, or does the owner?
What they do, they would do the same thing as they would do with us if we were in that position to purchase, to operate our own bus system. They
Yeah.
would give us the buses. They give you, you send them invoices. You have to take care of the maintenance. You have to figure out the maintenance,
Okay.
but you send them invoices. They will pay a certain amount for that.
So that's what the mayor was suggesting the city would do. It would be the same thing,
Buy the
wouldn't it?
buses, but no, it's not, because we're leasing them to Durham.
But that's what this
We're-
company is doing. I'm confused, I guess.
No, the company, this case, what are they called again?
Highland?
Highland Electric owns
Yeah.
the buses.
Right. And they lease them to a company like Durham.
Right.
And Durham, and they pay they pay for the maintenance. Durham sends them invoices about the maintenance.
What they do, I don't know if lease is the right word, they're supposed to make the bus available on a contract at the same price that, for a municipality, at the same price that you'd be paying, or less, than you'd be paying for commercial, normal diesel bus services. So, yeah.
Because I don't know, I guess it seems to me that's the same thing as what the mayor was suggesting, only instead of it being Highland, it would be the city of Easthampton.
Yeah, but as Bruce was mentioning with some other things, the way Highland Electric makes this profitable is depreciation on their taxes,
Right.
capital asset depreciation on the taxes, because they own these things, and other tax credits they can take advantage of. They get and as well they get the rebates.
Right.
And the city,
From the
there's
grant.
nothing similar the city would get.
Well, the city,
We
if there were
can't
grant
depreciate.
opportunity, but if there were grant opportunities to offset it, that's where it would make sense to go down that road, right? So that's what we're trying to figure out is there some sort of grant or incentive?
Okay, now I understand.
Federal or state that then makes that
It's
more.
not clear, obvious that the city would get enough benefit in that way as a private company does, because they can depreciate it.
Right.
Right.
And there's
Thank
tax-
you.
tax
Okay,
credits
now I
available, right?
I think
understand.
the depreciation is a real big element of the profitability.
Of course, yes.
Do you know how big the bus has to be?
How big it has to be.
Well, I guess what I'm thinking of is Riverside
Vans.
Right.
The vans.
all those vans that
So if
they
you-
utilize. Is there
Instead
any-
of, if you replaced 7 normal-sized buses with 15 smaller buses, would that count?
Well, or if the city, you had like, how many does the city need?
Oh, I see,
7 big
numbers
ones?
wise.
Right,
In order to
right.
get to that number, does that?
Yeah, that's interesting. Council on Aging or whatever uses them too. Like if you had.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think there's 2 levels. There's a Type C and a Type something or other bus. One is that fit 70-something passengers, and then there's the other ones that they'd go down to like 30 passengers or something, which is still way above the van size. Yeah, I doubt.
They're like 9 or 12.
Yeah,
something
right,
like that.
yeah.
I mean, another major thing that's still happening is that, you know, the number of municipalities and things that are applying for these like far outstrips their ability to fund them all already, right? It's like they're already going to be like oversubscribed.
Yeah.
So, you know, even when there are things available, it's like, you know, are you getting in
Right.
too late because like there's already 200 people in front of you in line?
Yeah.
And does it renew annually, so if you have your
Yeah.
application
And a lot of this stuff
in
is
January?
There was, that was the intention, I think, after the first round, but now they've said, what was it, was it a rolling? I can't remember. They're
Maybe.
doing the grant thing differently this time around, the federal level, and I can't remember what it is, but it might have to do whether there's a carryover or whether there's a rolling grant application. No, that wasn't a rolling, that was competitive with a deadline, this
Mhm.
last one. I forget what the new feature of it
And this is from the IRA that you're talking about, the recent IRA?
Some of the funding is, this was in place before the IRA. I think the IRA bumped up the funding. And so, actually, the amount they're making available in the second round is less than what they paid in the first round. So it's already not sounding real good. And $5 billion funds something like 1% of the national bus fleet. So not everybody's gonna, you know, get a, go ahead.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
What time are you all here until?
We passed our deadline here?
No, I have a meeting in here at 5.
Oh, we're
okay.
going.
We can be done by then.
Oh,
For
Okay,
sure.
just making sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
I forgot that there's somebody else coming in at 5, but we should be able to wrap it up between now and then. So, okay, I mean, a positive step in the fact that like Northampton is going to talk to us. I don't know how else we can like get on the.
No, I'm gonna
agenda.
call. I'll make a call. I'll just try to call. I'll send another email to Kuczynski.
Yeah.
And also, you know, maybe try to call by phone. Call up the school committee person from Hampshire Regional, since
Okay.
they haven't responded. See if I get a phone number.
Yeah.
And you know, but at least it's a start to see, get an idea of what level of interest there is and what are some of the complications of working together and timing of our contracts and all that with the Northampton discussion with the Northampton guy.
So do you think they understand that we just want them to listen to the presentation and say, okay, go ahead? That we're not asking them to do anything other than just say, fine, if you can make it happen, great. I'm just wondering if that's why they're not willing
That's not true. Yeah, I wouldn't say
Well-
that that's all we're asking for.
But I mean-
We're telling them that we don't expect them to come up with additional money out of their operating budget to do this beyond what they're already paying their current contractor, that with the grants and other incentives and or if Highland comes in, it's supposed to be no more expensive than the diesel bus system. They do have to incorporate it, you know, into their system and have a contract with somebody.
I just meant in terms of like getting the information, figuring out the possible ways we could make it happen, all of the work associated with getting to the point where we say we can do this. They don't have to get involved.
Well,
in
I
it.
would like, and I think
I don't
it's smart to
agree, yeah.
have one member of this, at least one member of our school committee taking a special interest in this as
Yes.
part of their duties as a school committee member. Otherwise, you don't have really good buy-in. And we
Right.
want them to
Yeah.
be arguing for this internally and be excited about this internally,
Yeah.
not just,
Yeah.
they're not gonna just do it because Energy Advisory Commission wants it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
in an ideal world, I want it to be part of, there's school committee elections this fall. I'd like it to be part of the conversation around who's supporting it to get elected to the school
Interesting.
committee.
Thought about that, yeah.
Because there's a bunch of new people that are gonna run. I don't know who might
It's
stick.
gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
And I think, some of the people who run are not necessarily gonna be supportive of something like
So
that.
do
It's
you-
not
There
gonna
is
be
one other
front
level,
end.
there is one part that's true about what you're saying, I think, or valid about what you're saying, and that's that the school committee is really the policy body, or the overall governing body over the school system, right? And they hire their superintendents, and they're responsible for passing the budget. But
Mhm.
if they support the resolution, then I think the business manager for the school system, Nick Bernier, now has some marching orders. About right now,
Right.
He doesn't. I mean,
Right now, his
he can-
marching
he can
orders
be
are,
the
yeah,
one-
don't make this hard for us.
Right.
He can be the one on a day-to-day basis that we work with, rather than the school committee member. Though it'd be nice to
Right.
have a good, solid communication and.
And do you think it's
Support.
too soon to go to like the school, the city council and like to get those letters that Nicole was suggesting we get support letters for? Do you think we have to get the school committee to say that they're in support, or can we get letters?
I'm
from these
afraid if we
other-
go to city council before we've got support from the school committee, they think we're doing an end around.
Well, that's what I'm
Like,
asking.
No,
I'm just-
my
it just-
inclination is to go to them.
Wait for the
Then
school
if they
committee.
reject it, maybe we somehow take it up with the mayor and the city council and say, what's going on here? You know, if they're not helping.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, she was suggesting getting support
I
from the
did
city
hear that.
council before we go to the school
Well, I
committee?
don't
Or-
She
remember
meant to
what
get
she
some
said.
groups.
She definitely
get some
said-
groups
wait,
and names in town or
why don't you
something.
refer to my minutes?
Yeah, you have it all in your minutes, I remember that, so.
Let's see what she said. She said, hold on, my long minutes. EV charger.
I think what makes sense is if we had endorsements from, I don't know, like the planning department, I don't know who, some different
Mhm.
agencies in town, that we could say in our presentation that these are other, besides the Energy Advisory Committee, these are other parts of the city government, or public, whatever, entities in town that support this happening.
Mhm.
Like, you know, the parents committee, whatever they are, they call them, the parent,
PTO.
for the school, PTA or something like that. That helps when you go to the school committee to, yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to tell you, I was trying to read this.
Right.
What
It
did
ju-
you say, that you
it
thought
just-
we could go before the school committee, or that we should wait?
You said go to the city council. I'm
I'm
saying
sorry, go to the
I
city
say we go to
council.
the, no, we don't go to the city council to pressure the school committee. We go to the school committee, ask them, you know, to join us, and here's some good reasons.
And then once they agree, then,
Then we can work with,
Go to
we
these
can work
other
with the
groups.
staff. Well, we can work with the staff who are responsible for running the system, and we have a current contract with Durham.
no, but I'm asking you a slightly different question about, the mayor suggested that
Yeah.
to make this
I
really
get what you're saying.
happen, we should get these, like some other committees and the school committee, and we should write support letters. And
Right, well, that's what you're saying, like the PTO possibly.
And
We
I'm
wanna
just
start
asking,
smaller.
I'm
We
just
wanna
asking
start-
what the,
Or even the plan.
what
internal.
the, how it should happen, what the steps would be. First, the school committee, or if you can't get into the school committee till October, is there any reason why it would make sense to say, let's get some support letters? That's all I'm trying to understand.
Well, I think,
Maybe, might be.
yeah, I
Let's
think
see
we
if
can get, I
on
think we
there.
want to get on the agenda and then we'll have some time. You know, if we know it's going to be a couple months out, like, okay, they can bring us in September. Like, and then the interim, we can say, okay, now before we show up, like, let's see what support we can get so that when we.
Okay. So it would
Show
make
up for
sense,
that.
and then we would go to the school committee with support letters. So we should write a support letter.
Yeah. we-
Well, the note that I sent to the school committee chair said this was a resolution of the Energy Advisory Committee that's mayor supported. So that's it.
Yeah.
You don't need to write a letter.
Well, I'm just trying to remember what the mayor said about it. She also said, you know, that when we're going, if we're going to go to the regional group, that, you know, we want to have all these letters in place to show how much support there is in the city for this to happen. I'm just trying to follow through on the input that she gave us.
No, I appreciate that, and it's good, but I don't think that we want to get derailed by that when, you know, what we want to focus on is like this initial, you know, let's try to get on the agenda, let's focus with the school committee and with, you know, Northampton and Southampton and try to have those conversations so we can start to figure out like what allies do we have, where can we get the pressure from. Yes, we want people to support this. Ideally, the school committee is going to be like, yeah, we'd love to do this, you know, we're behind you, help us figure this out, or we'll help you figure this out, you know, kind of thing. Probably won't be that clear cut, but, you know, ideally we could start there and not have to build like a whole grassroots thing behind it before the school committee is going to take it seriously.
One thing they could do is just simply make a resolution or statement that they have set a goal for themselves that by the next contract that's up, that we're in a position to to sign up with a contractor who can provide us with electric school buses or some portion of the fleet, growing, gradually increasing over a 5-year period.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
And then they're not on the
just
hook.
ask them to do something like that,
Right.
just say, yes, we support that in the future we should have electric school buses. Just something that just so that we have it in writing.
Right, no,
you
that's
know?
clearly what we try to get from it.
Even if it's not more than that, we at least would have that as a
Right.
starting point. That's what I
Right.
was thinking.
But we also want them to understand the challenges of the fact that, like, it's not just so easy as saying we want to do that and it's going to magically happen, right? You got to be able to figure out how to get vendors to respond to the
Of
thing.
course.
And, we want them to
And
put
we
some
probably
thought
have to have
and-
other
and
communities.
ideas.
Sorry.
But
Right, no.
I'm just concerned. I guess I'm thinking about the fact that, legitimately they have other concerns and they're overwhelmed a good deal of the time just trying to get done what they need to get done, and that new contract is going to come up relatively soon. And if they would at least say we support getting electric school buses in our next contract, or something about, even if that's all they're willing to do in September, because because all the other stuff they probably would say it's too much for us, we can't handle it. And we want them to understand that we will do a lot of the legwork for this, that's something that we will do, but we need them to agree that they think it's a good idea, that we should do it,
Yeah.
I don't know.
We agree. When we get anywhere close to having a presentation to them on their agenda,
Right.
we can sit here and discuss exactly how we.
All right.
Yeah.
And so the whole issue of getting support letters, we're just gonna wait.
I'm just busy working on contacts in the region, because the way it looks right now, the limited options we have, we need to put pressure on the vendors, and particularly Durham, and it's not going to happen probably just with Easthampton.
Okay, absolutely.
So that's the first
Okay.
step to me.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree, and like things like the PTO doesn't even meet throughout the summer. I don't
Yeah.
think right now. So I know some people there. I could certainly reach out, but I think reaching out to Cindy again, I can even take your original message and forward it to a couple of the other
Okay.
members
I'll pass it on
that
to
I
them.
know.
Although, let me give one more chance to the chair to
Yeah,
respond.
sure, and then I can reach out and say, hey, we've sent this. We'd like to. Can you help? Any help you could give us in getting on?
And what about the white paper that Nicole talked about? Is that something that has to wait until we get the school committee?
What's the white paper? Again?
She said that she could contact the Pioneer Valley.
Okay.
I just don't think I've read the stuff I've read the master plan they put out, the green master plan for the valley. I hear the stuff they're involved with. I don't think they've got the specific expertise about this topic that's going to be terribly useful for us. There is a guy that I spoke to, I'm forgetting his name again, Bob Labrie, who is a consultant, worked with districts in the Berkshires and Franklin County, who we might want to buy some, a few hours of his time to help us put a strategy together.
Well, what is a white paper? Like, what exactly would that be?
I don't know. We don't have time.
A white paper
Well,
is basically
she
something
said
that
she
would
would-
put together. It would be like, here best practices, or here's like, what's happening elsewhere. It's like aggregating information into sort of a policy piece that
Okay,
says.
so that might be helpful. If she's
except
willing to do it,
it's-
why not?
It's reinventing the wheel. There's groups out there who have already evaluated the alternatives and who have spelled that stuff out.
Yeah, we could maybe find
We're going to
something
spend a
like-
lot of time teaching them, and they're going to spend a lot of time learning about what the field looks like, what the options are like.
Look at. There's already like the thing I keep. I think I've shared before, like electricschoolbusinitiative.org.
Right.
There's like all these groups that are
I've been in touch with
really
them.
focused on that are all real focused on this. They're going to have information that we can marshal or
Are
use
there any
to
communities that have already been successful?
With this kind of approach, not that I know of. There's
Yeah.
communities that got direct grants and are operating their operating their own buses, and having.
And then
They're getting better and better, but they had a rocky start. The understanding how to run the chargers, the charging systems, and scheduling their buses, and
Yeah.
maintenance issues. But,
All right, so we have a couple next steps with that we're going to push forward
Yeah.
with, and hopefully get some traction, some clear ideas about
Yeah.
what the time frame is for getting in front of the committee, and whether we're going to be trying to do this alone or hopefully with a regional group. So, I do want to give Johnny. I want to make sure you have enough time for your couple of
I
things.
don't need very much time.
Okay, well, we've said that, and now it's
Sadly.
4:50, but, so, yeah, you want to start with the stretch code?
Yeah,
I saw
actually, I have to pull up,
your note about Northampton.
can I get this to open? Okay, as far as the opt-in stretch code is concerned, I sent some emails, and I'll send it to you. I don't think I have your email address, though. Would you just write it down?
It was on the message I sent where I gave everyone the
Oh, perfect.
agenda.
All right, I'll look
so.
for it then. About materials that are available about the opt-in code, and I think that it's really important for us to try to get this passed. I would like to know whether you guys agree with me that this is something that our committee would like to have passed by the city council.
Yes.
Okay.
I sort of am, but I also not sure we are prepared to answer all the objections and concerns that, that come up, and I want to know that we're able to give
Well, I mean,
reasonable
we
answers
will obviously
to.
do the best we can, but, in my mind, for me, if we really are committed to alternative energy and getting off of fossil fuels, the opt-in code that requires buildings to, if they're not going to now build a building that will
understand how it
now be
works.
funded, be fueled by fossil fuels, that they will wire so that they can be immediately retrofitted when the time comes. I mean, that to me is something that just really is important, and especially with these new construction that we're having put together. So I sent you guys a lot of information. I'll put some more materials together and talk to some people on the school committee about presenting to the school committee, since we have
The city council.
I keep saying second.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yes.
Too.
We're at 1 minute.
Is it 5 o'clock?
Not yet. We're good.
And then the other thing I wanted to say was I was concerned to read, to hear that that there seems to be a hope that the gas moratorium can be revoked. And I first of all, I think it's unlikely, but also I think it's important to understand that what Eversource and Tennessee Valley are really trying to do is establish new pipelines so they can send gas to Boston, and they put it in tankers, and they keep talking about reliability because that's an argument that seems like they're just doing it for us. But in fact, there really isn't a lot of evidence that it's an issue in this area that we need more gas lines. And I can get a lot of information
Can you repeat
about
the
that.
last sentence? I missed.
There is
last
not
sentence.
evidence that we actually have a reliability issue in terms of getting gas to Western Massachusetts, especially Springfield, which is what they keep arguing about, that Springfield, we're gonna have this disaster happen where there won't be enough gas in Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no evidence of that, and there's the Gas Leaks Allies and a lot of other organizations have documented this repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
That's really not what this is about. It's really about getting a pipeline, getting more capacity to send gas to LNG tankers in Boston Harbor.
Yeah, if they're exporting it, it's one thing. If
And-
Boston needs it, it's another thing.
Well, it's not even about Boston. I mean,
I see that.
they're claiming it's about Western Massachusetts. So, but also the fact that what we really need to do is convince these developers that they don't need gas, and they don't need propane.
Right.
So that was number one. But also, I wanted to say that this whole issue of chefs, and I have to admit, I'm not a chef. I don't know anything about it, but there are chefs who are saying that they can cook just as well on induction stoves as on gas, that it heats up very quickly and it gets very hot. And I've been talking to, emailing with somebody who sent me some resources, and one of the things that I would like our group to do is have an event where we invite people to come and use
Demo.
induction stoves and talk, and if we can get a chef who's using an induction stove to come, or if not, invite the local chefs to come and try the induction stoves. It's just something I would like to do for the future. I'm just throwing it out to you guys. I think
I think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
I don't know where we could do it, but if you
And we
could,
get dinner.
yeah, if you could figure out where to do it.
Well, one place we could do it is.
Does Manny's want to loan one?
There are people you can borrow. Yes, there are places you can borrow them from.
I've seen that where they're like doing the public library kind of thing.
I know that Arcadia would be more than happy to have us do it there, but there may even be a restaurant, which would be even better, that would be willing to let us do it. That would be really cool. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up too.
Okay. Now the stretch code, you did mention that Northampton is considering it, right?
Oh yes, I sent you guys that article. Yes, they're pretty far along.
Right.
Yeah, and.
So I would say that to your point about being able to answer objections and like that, like
Using the dialogue there.
looking at what's going on there,
Right.
like let's use the talking points or whatever
Well,
they're already going
that
through.
That email I sent you has a lot of information about the talking points that are responses to some of the concerns. Also, what the mayor was saying about how she wanted us to align the IRA and the codes. I mean, as far as I don't know, I tried to find someone who actually had done it already, but there is the thing that I feel like we need to do as part of our climate action plan is have a very specific way to help contractors get information about what's available to them if they choose to build net zero or whatever is available to them, because there is a lot of money available. But I don't know very much about I know nothing about building, so it's hard for me to even know what these grants really imply for a contractor. But
somebody who might be interested is the guy who's developing the Ferry Street. They're starting on the next building. At 5 Ferry Street, there's solar, there's mini splits, there's like all of these things.
Come on in, we're out.
I don't want to rush you, I just knew there was an ECA meeting at 5.
yeah, come on in. We're finishing up.
We're wrapping up.
Fine,
We're wrapping up.
I'm just surprised not to see any of this.
There were people hovering.
They're all here. We're finishing our meeting, which is a pretty different one that started at 3.
We're having a good time, right?
What was I going to say? Yeah, and apparently the developers at what they call Tasty Talk, according to the meeting that you went to, they're planning to do that with the apartments. The question is the restaurants and how they're going to handle the restaurants, because they all want gas. And then there's a company that's trying to open a business with 12 hot tubs. And they want to, maybe they could do 6, I don't know.
Make a wood fire.
Before everybody
That wouldn't
leaves,
help, would it?
we need to adjourn it, but also,
Sorry.
I was just going to say, because I would think maybe for something we could think about for the next Green Community Grant, or it's that other piece around, like, if we ever see that money from the Columbia Gas, settlement, could be around. I mean, part of it's around that outreach and letting people know what's available, or maybe there's something we can do to encourage more green development or help developers, reach another level or reach sort of opt-in stretch goals. Maybe that's something that we could orient a grant around. I don't know if that would be concrete enough for green communities, but something to think about for.
That's a great idea. That's a really good idea. I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Do I have a second? Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. Recording is going to stop, and we'll make way for these folks.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.